Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. On behalf of everyone at Rev.io, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. Before we begin the presentation, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. First, audio will automatically come in through your computer speakers. However, if you're having trouble using your speakers or unhappy with the quality of the sound, you can also dial in using the phone and access code listed on the screen. A recorded version of this webinar will be emailed to you within 2 weeks. And lastly, we encourage you to ask any questions using the GoToWebinar control panel, and we will be having a live Q&A at the end of the presentation. For those of you just joining us, welcome. Today, Kyle Belcher from porting.com, formerly known as ATL Communications, will be sharing strategies for saving time while reducing operating expense when porting local numbers. Now I'd like to introduce Kyle. Kyle is the Director of Client Success of porting.com. Beginning in 2011, he has held the positions of Head of IT, Senior Resp.org Representative, and LNP Operations Manager for ATL Communications. With each position, he gained the expertise necessary to lead both the legacy Resp.org and the new local number porting department to success through strategic development. Prior to becoming the Director of Client Success, he built an LNP division from the ground up, leveraging ATL's brand authority in telecom to become the first new competitor in this space in nearly a decade. Kyle participates in several working groups concerning both local number porting and toll-free to ensure industry advancement and an equal playing field for businesses of all sizes. Without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Kyle.
Thank you very much. So today we are going to be going over 4 tips to save time and money and reducing your operating expenses with LNP. We're going to show you porting.com's suite of LNP tools and how these can help. So as an introduction, we here at porting.com, we advocate for our customers at the highest levels. We are members of many industry groups. We make sure our customers have a voice in an industry that is generally only heard by those larger companies. We participate in many local and toll-free number groups. I myself sit on the LNP working group, the Future of Numbering working group, Somos, and the Somos user group. I make sure that the needs of our customers, whether small or large, are heard at these industry groups, and that the decisions made for the industry are reflective of both large and small companies, not just those behemoth corporations that tend to control the local numbering world. So for those of you with us that are not quite aware of what local number porting is, local number porting is the ability of telecom users to maintain their number regardless of the carrier. Now, many people believe that with cell phones and the advent of these national carriers that you can take your number anywhere. That is not quite the case yet. National number portability has yet to make its way to the front stage, but we are working on it. As of now, most carriers, those with a national footprint, you can port your number between any of them. All the wireless carriers, for instance, they have footprints everywhere, so you can port your numbers from one carrier to another. So after the introduction of LNP, end users could generally keep their telephone numbers when moving from one telecommunications provider to another. Users no longer needed to update friends, family, billing platforms, secondary logins with new preferred contact information. And not to mention, they didn't have to memorize a new telephone number. So LNP has been very helpful to consumers. So our products that can help with this local number portability process. Our core product, Porting Pro, is an impact management product. This is where you go to actually submit your SVs, your subscriptions, to the INPAC, the National Portability Administration Center, and bring those numbers to your network. Next, we have PortView, a centralized CSR, LSR submission platform. So rather than having to maintain business rules of every carrier that you may trade numbers with, you can have one centralized location to submit those. Next, NumberView is a TN ownership lookup tool. It makes it very easy to see who owns a number and where you need to go to request the port of that number. Finally, LRN Pro, which is port-corrected routing data that is used in the call path. It can be used for routing, rating, billing, and make sure you are sending calls to the correct place when they have been ported. So tip number one that we have for you today is make it easy. This is actually one of our core values here at porting.com. We feel that the telecom industry is overly complicated for no reason other than being complicated. We are working to make this a simpler, more straightforward process for everybody involved, because in this day and age, it really should be. There is no reason it should take 3 to 4 weeks to move your number from one carrier to another. You should be able to do that in a single visit to your local carrier or wireless provider and move that number without any issue at all. So how easy should LNP be? There are really 5 basic steps to porting a number. First, you verify that TN ownership information, which you can do through our NumberView tool. Next, you're going to request that LSR, so you're going to go through the pre-port process requesting FOC, which is your firm order commit, for porting that number. You can either navigate to that carrier's portal, or you can use our centralized tool, PortView. Next, you're going to create your INPAC subscription. Porting Pro is the product we have that manages those for you. And once the FOC date is passed, you're going to activate that INPAC subscription, which is going to physically move the traffic from its current location to your switches. Finally, you're going to test the number and notify your customer that the transition is completed and they are now active on your service. So as you can see, LNP should be simple. These are very basic steps, but the process has been convoluted over the years. Our tip 2 is accessibility. So in today's connected world, you'd expect to be able to do anything everywhere. Users of the LTI, the low tech interface, may be familiar with the dongle that you have to carry around, right? So you got to pass that around the office. Only one computer is actually going to be able to access this application because it has to have a very outdated version of Java on it. And it makes it very hard for anybody to scale these LNP operations. We feel that LNP should be accessible on any device, from any browser, any location, at any time, without those VPNs or those dongles. One use case we like to show is our users are able to have their field techs on site with the tablet and activating their numbers right there, and then testing as soon as they've done the activate themselves. Generally, the field tech will go out to site. They will either have the number preset to go active, and many times the field tech is not quite ready, or there's a delay, and that number goes active. Now the customer goes down, and nobody wants customers to go down. Conversely, the field tech can call the provisioner and have the provisioner activate that number when they're actually ready, but that provisioner may have stepped out on lunch. They may be at the water cooler, and that causes delays, and that wastes everybody's time. By giving the ability for that field tech to activate this number in the field on their tablet, you've given them the efficiency necessary to make sure they're turned up exactly when they're ready to turn that customer up. To go to an extreme, a question we like to ask is, what if I was on top of a mountain? Can I still port my numbers? And it's not a problem. Here's how you can do that. So first, you're going to log into your number view service, and this is a complimentary service we provide to all of our customers, and you're going to verify the TN ownership information. Here's a screenshot of a number view dashboard. So you would enter your TN and hit your submit button. It's that easy. Now you'll see the output here, and you've had immediate SPID verification. So we now know that the number we're trying to port is on SPID 6006, Verizon Wireless. So the next step, now that we have our information, is going to be submitting our LSR. You can either go to Verizon's portal, and you can follow their very specific business rules and submit it there, or you can leverage our system, PortView, which is going to allow you a single platform and a single submission method regardless of the carrier. You just need to know the SPID that number is coming from, so our system knows where to send that LSR, but no longer do you have to maintain these sets of business rules for every one of these carriers. We maintain that for you on the back end. So here's a view of the PortView dashboard. You are able to, at a quick glance, see what LSRs you have and where they are in the process. You can see if you have any new orders. You can see your submitted orders. You can see if you've had any orders that are rejected that you need to work on. And you can see any accepted orders, numbers that you've received your FOC on, and you can now go ahead and create subscriptions for. All up front and very easy to see. But now we're going to go ahead, let's create a new order. So here we've provided a standardized submission form. Different carriers have different rules for what they're going to require from an LSR from you. Level 3, for instance, requires nothing but a zip code, whereas Windstream may require an entire billing address. And this can cause confusion with provisioners, those actually submitting those LSRs. And many times, say a provisioner assumes this is with level 3. So when they're talking to the customer, all they really get from them is that zip code. That's all they're worried about because they know it's level 3. Well, lo and behold, they find out it was actually with Windstream. Now they've got to go back to that customer. Right now they have to do another touch, and you want to avoid contacting and pulling information from that customer as much as possible. You'd like to get that in as few touches as possible. Well, we've standardized the submission, so you're going to be requesting the same information every single time. It allows repeatability and it allows dependability in the process. In this instance, all we need is our customer account information, so we're going to get current provider, any PINs, any account numbers required. We get service address information, and then once in your telephone numbers that you'd like to port. Finally, you create your order. This is the only system that your users need to know how to use. This system will then send the LSR to the correct location, and it'll be worked from there. What you'll see is an easy output of its current statuses. So here, this one's been accepted, and your order has been granted FOC for August 31st, 2018. So old screenshot, but you can see here, you can now go ahead and create your subscription. On the right, you can see a note progression. This is going to give you information of what's happened on this order. You can see if it's been rejected 2 or 3 times, and if those rejections have been worked. It allows more than one user to come in and pick up a port wherever it's at, and in one place see the life it's had, right? See the progression of that LSR and quickly know what they need to do to move that forward, as opposed to diving through 4 or 5 systems to glean the information they need to start working this because their colleague may be out sick today. We also provide you rejects in layman's terms. So many carriers, if you submit an LSR to them and they reject it, they may provide you a reject code of L01. What you do now is you reach for your tome of reject codes for that specific carrier. You go to page 247 and you find that reject code and reference it out to what they're actually trying to tell you. We transpose all of this to standard English. We make it easy to read. We tell you it was rejected for an address mismatch, or that there's a freeze on the account, or we need a PIN number. And then we make it easy for you to update and resubmit that LSR. So once you've successfully had your LSR submitted and you've received your FOX date, now you go and create your subscription. And whether you're doing that in the LTI, which is the low tech interface, or you're using a SOA such as Porting Pro, this will be your interface with the InPack. Porting Pro itself is the first cloud-based SOA, so it's the first entry to the market in nearly a decade, and technology has progressed a lot in a decade. So as going from old rack-based single location programs, we are regionally diverse, and so we are located in both East and West regions using AWS architecture. And then each of those regions are connected to a primary and a secondary InPack data center, allowing unprecedented uptime. You can get to this system anytime and as well as anywhere. So when you log into Porting Pro, the first place you're going to see is your dashboard. We provide a dashboard. It makes it easy for you to know where your orders are, what you have pending, and what needs to be worked. We allow you to group your numbers by work order, so you can easily search and filter your dashboard by that single work order. Our statuses are easy to read and intuitive. We've enhanced the InPack standard messaging with concurred and activate ready statuses to give you more information about where your SV is in its life cycle. We give you a last activity so you know who's doing what with these. Our action buttons are quick and easy to use, right on the front and available for each number. You can see who's been doing it, when that's due, and which direction the number's going. We're going to go ahead and let's look at creating a port in here. So our porting interface is very easy to use. First, you're going to input your TNs up to 500 at a time, singles and ranges, common to limited. If you have more than 500 TNs to port at a time, you can use our bulk import process. Those of you who may have used the mumps process with the iConnective InPack find it can be very difficult to use. It can be very cumbersome. Our bulk input allows you to easily do up to 100,000 numbers at a time, if necessary, with a single spreadsheet upload. But in this case, say we're just porting that single number, you input your TN, your SPID, who you're porting from, 6006 Verizon Wireless in this case, your due date, so that date that you received, the date that you got confirmed from the losing carrier through the LSR process for. And then you can set your porting profile, which will automatically populate LRN and any optional data, reducing keystrokes and making it easier to get it correct the first time. Conversely, if you don't have porting profiles set up, you'd input your LRN and any of your DPCSS endpoint codes at this point. And then you'd hit submit. That's going to go ahead and that's going to feed that to the InPack. The InPack is going to create those subscriptions, and then that subscription is going to be on your dashboard. With Porting Pro, the next step is going to be your one-click activate. So you will easily be able to activate this number from a tablet, from a cell phone, from a computer, wherever you may be, you can activate your numbers. So here in this case, you see we have two numbers in an activate ready status. You will select your numbers, and once you've selected your numbers and have your multi-select action of activate, you're going to hit go, and that's going to send your activate. Conversely, over here you have your activate buttons. So if it's just a single number, just click activate, and that's going to activate your number. It is easy as that to send an activation. And there you are. You've activated your number, another error-free activate today. You'll test that number, give it a call, make sure it works, and let your client know they've successfully migrated over to your services. Now you can begin billing. So As you see, it's an easy, straightforward, repeatable process that you can perform each time to activate these numbers and bring these customers onto your system. You heard me talk about some of the INPAC and regulatory bodies, so I kind of want to go over the state of local number porting market. It hasn't changed a lot, except in the last year or so, there's been some different companies entering the space. So iConnective has taken over the INPAC from Newstar. Newstar has been the INPAC administrator for as long as I know. iConnective very recently took over that contract and has been working to implement new tools to make LNP easier. Though it's a very slow process. Somos has taken over the NANPA, the North American Numbering Plan Administration, and they're just beginning to get their feet wet in that process. FCC still oversees everything and still dictates whether or not any changes are made to the industry as a whole, and this is why we sit on these groups. These groups report to, including the Nancy, report directly to the FCC, and we make recommendations on new regulations that need to be set or regulations that need to be removed to simplify this process and bring the LNP process to the future. In the pre-port side of things, Cineverse has been a long-time player, but their tools are by no means affordable, which means they really aren't in reach to those small carriers. Their software is designed for very large very large carriers who have $500,000, millions of dollars to invest in these products. We've come with a product that is affordable. It is scalable, so we've made it available to everybody from a very large carrier to your mom and pop carrier who may only do 30, 40 ports a month. These tools are available to you and they're affordable. Also, in the SV management side, there's a few players here. They have, as we said, we're the only new entrant in nearly a decade. iConnective manages the LTI, the low-tech interface. Newstar and Cineverse both have SOAs, but they are geared towards larger carriers. They don't have a lot of incentive to help out those smaller carriers who could use these carrier-grade tools. And finally, we've entered with Porting Pro, which is a scalable solution available to everybody. So tip number 3, less is more. For those smaller companies, headcounts are important. And you may only have enough work for a single LNP rep, but what happens if that one rep gets sick, right? You are able to outsource your porting directly to porting.com if you'd like. So we can interact with your company appointed contact, whether that's your sales team or if that's a provisioner who's going to provide us with that customer information, and we will handle that port, CSR, performing the CSR, the LSRs, all the way through the activate. So we can take that burden off your team. We can also step in if there's, say, an FMLA situation or somebody takes out a long vacation. You may need some help, but you don't want to have to overstaff your department. We can be there to take on that overflow. And what's it cost to run an LNP division? Well, a good LNP rep, from our research, makes between $18 and $25 an hour, and a manager is going to make between $30 and $45 an hour. That's going to put your loaded LNP cost for an employee between $4,000 and $5,000, $4,000 and $6,000, and your loaded manager is going to be between $7,000 and $10,000. Add on other HR resources and everything, as well as your current porting costs, whether it be your LTI subscription or your SOA costs, and that can get very high. By outsourcing that to porting.com, you can help keep your staffing low and not have to worry about redundancy. Step number 4, automation. Or Tip number four, excuse me. Tip number four is automation. So automation can reduce errors and fallout by 60%, saving time and money. From what we've seen, every company that wants to survive needs to start embracing automation. Right? So porting.com provides APIs for LNP with each new subscription, and since our platform runs on them, our APIs are always up to date and they are always going to be working. One nice statistic I've seen here is 71% of telecom CEOs name process automation as a long-term technology enabler. What they're saying is process automation is going to allow their company to implement technologies in the future easier, making sure they stay up to date and with the times. Anybody in the carrier space knows that margins are very, very thin. It's a very competitive market, and if you don't have automation and if you don't have technology backing you up, there's just no way you can compete in this day and age. Our APIs are RESTful APIs, so if you already have that back-end process in place, you can integrate our APIs to your system and manage all that from a single location. What's great is, going back to the field tech that we were talking about earlier, that field tech may have a tablet with you've built an app for them that they work in to manage those numbers and manage that turn up. Well, you can integrate with those APIs, the porting process, directly into those apps and give them a big activate button that's very easy to use. Our live dashboard also stands on top of these APIs, so everything can be used with itself. You have APIs, you have a user submitting an activate through an API. You'll see that on the dashboard. So you can slowly implement this automation in areas that you see it most effective. Your users can log into the dashboard. They can do their creates right there, and then your field techs will be able to do their activates from your in-house systems. And as time goes on, you can automate more and more of these processes, easing into this. Finally, all this is running over a direct connection to the NPAC. So being directly connected, you know your updates are going as quickly as possible there. So why ATL? We've been in business for over 25 years, and I think that speaks to itself. We've watched telecom evolve, and we have been working since the beginning to help point it in a direction that makes it easy for all. Our systems are easy to use, so you don't need a 30-page manual to access any of them. You can easily have a user log in and start using this system. Our systems are modular, so you can pick and choose the systems you want to use. If the impact subscription management is what you're looking for today, but tomorrow you may want to start using that centralized LSR CSR submission platform, you can do that. Our intuitive tools mean less time training staff. So training is a very labor-intensive process, especially in LNP, because LNP has so many different processes you have to follow. If you can reduce those processes to one, you can greatly reduce your training time required. And not only do you have to pay this employee that's learning, but you have to pay your seasoned employee that's teaching them. So reducing that time saves a lot of money. We have flexible product and pricing options. So as I've said, our products scale anywhere from the very large carriers all the way down to little mom and pop organizations, little mom and pop carriers, your local CLECs. Anybody can use our tools, and we've made them accessible that way. As I've talked about the APIs. The APIs we feel are very important, and integration into your systems is very easy using our RESTful APIs. We are fully trained and always available. So if you have any questions, concerns, you need help, we have 24/7 support available to you. Our service is an end-to-end service offering, so you can get all the pieces you need to port your numbers from one place. Our web-based GUIs are accessible anywhere. So if you're on top of that mountain and you need to activate your number, it is possible. No longer do you have fobs, gateways, or proprietary software necessary. No longer do you need Java 1.6 or Windows 98. You can do this with any device running any operating system on any browser. And here we will be your safety net. So for those smaller companies who don't have a large team that can absorb loss of staff, we'll be there to help. If you ask us to jump, our only question is going to be, how high? With that, that was LNP Simplified. One note, if you are a VoIP provider and you don't currently have access to your own numbering resources, but you would like them, reach out to us. We have helped several companies through the process of the FCC mandated IVP numbering acquisitions. And this will allow you to own your own DIDs and manage this process yourself, as opposed to waiting for those wholesalers to do it for you. And as we all know, they can take their time, and getting a customer up and turned up on your system is the most important part following the sales process to start getting to your revenue there. So you can call us or email us. You can call us at 1-800-PORTING, or you can shoot us an email at pr@porting.com. With that, I'm going to hand it back to Olivia.
Great. Thank you so much, Kyle, for taking the time to join us today and sharing this important information that can help our service providers improve their LNP operations. Before we begin the Q&A portion of the presentation, I just want to remind everybody again that you will receive a full webinar recording within the next 2 weeks. And also, we would encourage you to submit your questions in the GoToWebinar questions box, and any that don't get addressed during the live presentation, we will follow up with you individually via email. So now, Kyle, I'd like to ask just a couple of questions here. The first one is, we have multiple employees within our organization who perform local number porting functions. How many users can you have using your platform at the same time? And do we need to buy additional licenses?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I guess I didn't talk about that. We have our products support unlimited users, so we don't want to limit you on how many people you can have in the system. You can have your entire organization with logins in the system at the same time if necessary.
Great. The second question is, we are currently using the new Star LNP platform. How difficult is it to transition to your product?
Yeah, so we can perform what we call soft cutover on that, leveraging delegate SPID. So our system being an XML based system, we can turn up our SOA in conjunction with your existing SOA and allow you to easily and softly migrate over to the new systems without any downtime.
That's great. That's awesome. Let's see. This one is, we are currently using the LTI platform. How difficult is it to transition to your product?
So the LTI platform, the same. You can do a soft cutover. You don't need to turn down your LTI to turn up our SOA, so you don't have to worry about any hard cutover dates, just as if you're coming from Newstar.
Awesome. And I think we have time for one more question. So this one is, if we have feedback or a development suggestion, who do we contact?
So we actually have a Trello board that, if you are a customer of ours, we use something called Trello, which gives you insight to our development, where we're at, what's on deck. It allows you to comment, vote, and suggest your own ideas on where you think this product should go.
Great. Well, thank you again, Kyle, for joining us. Like I said, if you asked any questions that didn't get addressed, we will follow up with you individually via email. And thank you to our audience for joining us today. We hope that you've enjoyed the presentation. Thanks again.